Hello and welcome to Glady's Cake Kitchen. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this very simple ganache drip cake completed with some fresh summer peonies, macaroons and custom themed element for a christening. Making this cake is completely beginner friendly and can be adapted for different occasions such as a birthday, a baby shower and a simple wedding cake. I'll be giving you tips on how to fill a cake properly in the summer heat and how to deal with some issues such as cracks on your cake when using ganache. For added value, I'll be discussing the subject of using other people's cake photo as inspiration or recreating exact cakes of other artists. This video is packed with more value to help you level up your decorating skills and the business of cake making. So without having to waste your time, let's jump right in. For starters, ever heard the saying, I don't recreate exact work of other artists? Variations of this may include, I can do this as close as possible but not the same, or I can recreate something similar with my own twist. For me as a cake business, you'll find a statement on my website noting, at Glady's Gourmet Cakes, we do not replicate the exact work of other artists provided in photo form. However, we use these photos as inspiration and a guide to uniquely create a cake for you. This statement helps me to mitigate customer expectation, stops me from ripping off work of other artists without due credit, also ensures appropriate pricing for my work and helps me to maintain my own artistic value. We will be delving much deeper into the subject and I'll explain things better as we go along. In the meantime, here is the inspiration for this cake sent to me by a family friend. Having had several cakes from me before, she understood her image was just an idea. Decorative elements were to remain similar but change from gold to silver. Work starts on the cake over here and I have 6 layers of my classic vanilla sponge leveled ready to be filled with buttercream. Notice the layers are not all the same, with 2 of the cake layers larger than the other 4. This will matter when the cakes are to be stacked. Moving on to my work table, ganache is applied as glue to hold in place a 6-inch cake drum placed on top. Ganache is again applied over the 6-inch drum before the first layer of cake is placed. The ganache will hold the cake in place on the drum and together with the drum glued onto the surface board, these will serve as a steady base for the cake. Each layer of cake is then filled with buttercream starting with the largest 2. These are a little over 1 inch in thickness compared to the other layers which are a bit over half an inch each. With the cake layers tender and delicate at this stage, heavy layers placed later will weight down, causing stability issues. The cake is also filled using ice cream scoop as a measure to ensure even amount of buttercream in between the cake layers. While filling the cake, let's revisit the subject of cake inspiration and what this means. The cake order process starts with discussing a concept or an idea. Depending on need, some customers may present a photo of the cake they may like recreated. While this is widely welcome in the cake making industry, a customer seeking a cake maker to recreate an exact replica of a cake in a photo form may in itself present some fundamental problems such as the following. Firstly, the cake maker may not have all the tools and design elements such as molds, stencil, and specialty decorative elements. Secondly, where these elements may be considered, these could be added as custom purchases which will pass on to the final price of the cake, making the cake more expensive. In some cases though, a cake maker may simply fall short of the skills to recreate the cake presented to them. With some of the above concerns noted, we'll be touching on why you should perhaps think twice before promising an exact replica of a cake to a customer and what the statement in my terms and conditions really means. Back to cake. A good tip for filling cakes in the summer is to do this in stages. After 3 layers, I am going to leave the cake to set firm before adding the rest of the layers. This will stop the buttercream melting in the process and causing instability, or worse, the cake may fall apart. I have a video linked up here for you to check out on a cake that fell apart thanks to unstable buttercream. Okay. So let's talk about why you should think twice before taking on the exact replica of a cake by another artist promised to a customer. Bear in mind, I'm not against you here, and in fact, I understand cakes have been made over and over again, and there's nothing quite like an original idea anymore, and it can be awfully difficult tracing and giving credit where necessary. In some cases, I understand a cake maker might just be comfortable creating the photo of the cake that is right in front of them other than scouring for an original idea. The case for customer satisfaction and customer need is stronger in this category, and all of that are valid. But whilst we hold that thought, let me also point you to another perspective. Like perhaps when you promise an exact replica of a cake to a customer, you may unintentionally be setting yourself up for a fall because of probably the detail related to that cake and how daunting it might be to recreate. Also, you may be unintentionally enabling a customer who may not have the right understanding of the general price connected to that particular cake. It's a bit like picking a Gucci labeled item, taking it to a local artisan for that to be recreated for cheaper. More often than not, you'll find that the customer may not be willing or perhaps could not afford the actual price if they knew. Having said that, pressed with their determination for a need for that item, they are happy to settle for a knockoff by a local artisan. But that seems like a distant case at a distant level. Let us bring it closer to home. For instance, two cake artists in the same local vicinity sharing a postcode. One cake maker is deemed expensive by the customers, who are still, however, perhaps happy to pick the expensive cake photo from this local artist and take it to the next local artist who can create the exact cake for cheaper. Over time, the expensive cake maker is unable to sustain their business because of a lack of customers, and they go bust, they are out of business. The next person creating the cakes for cheaper may in the short term seem like the winner by creating the cakes cheaper, but in the long term they might struggle to sustain their business because they are unable to make a living due to inaccurate pricing. So everybody loses in the end. Also, the repetitive request of recreating other people's work has a tendency to stifle your own artistic growth and stifle your business in the long term. But those seem like very serious subjects for the business of cake making. On a very minuscule level, a customer who is too particular might just have you on the slightest dent or change in detail, which might open you to a refund. Back to cake. The first 3 layers of cake is brought back to be stacked. With some buttercream over the cake, the 4th layer is now added. A dowel is measured to the height of the cake and cut to size. This is then inserted into the cake and a 5-inch cake card placed in the center on top of the dowel. The last 2 layers of cake are added to finish the filling and stacking process. The cake is checked for alignment by first using a scraper to remove any excess hanging buttercream and to ensure the scraper moves smoothly around the cake. If not, the cake is shifted into place. The cake is then left to set before work continues. Whilst the cake is in the fridge, let's get back to the statement on my website and what it really means. The statement reads, at Glady's Gourmet Cakes, we do not replicate the exact work of other artists provided in photo form. However, we use these photos as inspiration and a guide to uniquely create a cake for you. A statement like this allows me the opportunity to mitigate customer expectation. I'll explain. When a person has a photo of an item in front of them, their perspective is quite limited due to the photo that they are observing. By telling them I am unable to create an exact cake right from the entrance means that I am able to also disrupt their visual perspective whilst offering them an alternative. This means that by expectation, they are not to expect an exact cake from me, but the cake I'll be creating for them is perhaps not too different from the one they are looking forward to. This gives me leverage to be able to comfortably create them a cake without the pressure of unmitigated expectation. Also, as noted earlier, this helps me to not contribute to the problem of enabling entitled customers who may not just be willing to pay the exact price for a cake. This also allows me to mitigate the issue of pricing and to be able to price my cakes accordingly. Now, these are 2 reasons not to rip off someone's work. You have some other reasons. I want to hear them in the comment section. I ended up keeping the cake overnight, and the cling film was to help keep the cake from drying out whilst in the fridge. The cake is going to be a semi-naked cake, so I'm going to skip trimming it completely and move straight to crumb coating. Some ganache is spread on the cake starting from the top until the entire cake is completely covered. A scraper dipped in hot water is used to scrape away any excess, and any hollow pockets on the cake surface are filled in and scrubbed again. The cake with the gathered ganache on top of the top lip is left to chill before it is brought back to be trimmed. This is a good tip for achieving sharp edges on a cake easily. The cake is back after chilling, and a sharp knife dipped in hot water is used to trim the excess ganache gathered on top. The top is filled with a small coating of ganache. This is then applied all around the cake and any excess scraped off. The top is cleaned first with a knife before a scraper is used for a final polish. Our cake is partly done, but first let's check back at the inspiration to see how we are doing. What do you think? Cracks are showing on the cake, so I am creating pressure holes in the cake to avoid further cracking. The cake is then transferred onto a fondant covered board ready for the drip. This is to be done by sliding a hot plate underneath the cake and the bottom board to lift the cake onto the fondant covered board. White chocolate drip is then applied using a spoon to direct the flow. I have a shorts video linked below with recipe details for the drip. After the drip is done, the cake is left to set firm, and it's time to prep the decorations for the cake. The decorative element for this cake include a selection of fresh summer peonies and some macaroons with white chocolate dripped over. The macaroons are left to set first with the drip, so let's go finish our chat on terms and conditions. Back to T&Cs. Telling a customer from the get-go that I'm unable to create them an exact cake means that if they proceed with the order, they have a sort of mitigated expectation of a cake that they are likely to receive. This also means that I am also able to have the creative flair to put my own touch on the cake, which makes it a win-win for us. Look, running a cake business is tough, and over time, it is the artistic expression that you enjoy from the cakes that will keep you going when all chips are down. So perhaps I'll say I am happy to pick up a cake that allows me more artistic expression for less the money than a cake that I don't particularly care about. Cake and inspiration over. Our cake is to be decorated starting with a fondant ball on the side of the cake held in place by some ganache. The leaves are pinned into the fondant and the peonies are to follow. The stalk of the peonies are cut out and replaced with a toothpick. The floral arrangement is on the top left and bottom right, and when complete, the macaroons are placed to include the custom cross topper and name charm. With the cake done, here are some photos for you. What do you think of the cake and its inspiration? Which is better and which do you prefer? Leave your reasons down below in the comments section. Hopefully you've learned a bit more about cake decoration today, and I hope moving forward you'll think before taking on the responsibility of replicating an exact work for a customer. But as a beginner, I understand this might be a chance to build your skill, so perhaps good luck on that note. But for more tips on how to decorate your cake better in the summer, tap on this video showing right on screen, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.